Hello, business builders. Welcome to Business for Breakfast, where business is the most important meal of the day. I'm your host, Aaron Novinger, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most important productivity hacks that I've been able to use to accomplish way more than I should have, especially with a crazy ADD brain. Without further ado, let's jump into it. All right, I'm going to tell you guys a little story. I last year decided that I was going to start to get my pilot's license. Now, I need to give you a little bit of a backstory on why, what, how, all that good stuff. All right. So if we're looking at, let's go back to October of 23. We had some friends of ours that owns a business, and his business, he has a plane, and in particular, if you know anything about airplanes, it's a PC-12, Pilatus PC-12, which, if we're being honest, is amazing, okay? I'm way too cheap and frugal to ever have anything like that. It's pretty rare that people have that much money. But anyway, I digress. This is last October. And we all flew out to Asheville, North Carolina, which my sister lives out in that area. And we were out there during their leaf season. And so I got to fly in this plane, and we hung out there for a few days. And on the way back, the owner of the plane, my friend, let me ride up in the co-pilot seat for the first half of the flight with the pilot. And I got bit. And the pilot let me call departure, or I don't know, we were calling departure approach. I don't know what it was, but I basically had to call Atlanta airspace and introduce ourselves to him. And once I did it, I was hooked. I think the pilot basically said, when you call the tower, because he's, do you want to call him tower? I'm like, are you kidding? Yes. And so I called tower, and he said, just introduce yourself. So anytime you're calling tower, you typically want to do who they are, who you are, where you are, and what you want. And you typically, who they are, they're Atlanta, whatever they are, departures, approach, whatever. And who you are, that's your tail number. Where you are at, I think we were at 24,000 feet, which is 240. And straight to, I forgot the airport. You just get on real quick and you just tell them. And the funniest thing is, so Adam, the pilot, was like, okay, Aaron, you know what you're doing, right? So you're going to call, you're going to say Atlanta airspace. I think his tail number is 2244 X-ray. And then just let him know 240, straight to Spinks, whatever. Cool. We were going to Spinks, we're going to a different airport. But I said, okay, no problem. He goes, are you ready? I said, yes. And he goes, okay, you're out. I hit the button. I go, good morning, Atlanta. This is 2244 X-ray at 240 direct to Spinks or Arlington, whatever. And I got done. And the pilot goes, where did that come from? I said, I have no idea. I don't even know. And so from that moment, I was like, I got to do this. Now, I got to give you a little bit of backstory. My parents were air traffic controllers, and I say all my parents because I've got my mom, my natural dad, and my adopted dad were all air traffic controllers in the Navy. So as a kid in the 80s, I grew up in a tower most of my childhood, which I got to be honest, I don't know of anything more fun than hanging out with a bunch of dudes in the Navy. And there was some females too, but air traffic control is mainly a male-dominated profession, especially in the 80s. And I just remember spending countless hours in the tower with mom and dad, mainly dad, because mom got out after 10 or 11 years in the Navy, but dad ended up being career. And I just remember all those times of hanging out in the tower. Honestly, if I did not have such horrible health as a kid, I absolutely, unequivocally would have been a pilot in the Navy if I was able to get in. I just loved aviation, aircraft. As a kid, my parents would buy me little model F4s, F-14 Tomcat. It's one of my favorite planes ever. last October, when I rode in that seat, I was like, okay, no, I really like this. Once we landed, the very next day, we landed on a Sunday, and Monday morning, I was on the way to Tulsa to go visit with the office. And it rained the entire time. So we go to Asheville, I'm able to fly, right seats, and the plane, come back, I'm able to talk to Tower, I get the bug. But then I immediately end up having to be on the road the next day to Tulsa, and again, you guys know a little bit about me, but I'm insanely frugal, so my getting around town car is a Prius. And so I'm driving the Prius, and I had to be there Monday afternoon, and then I'm driving back Wednesday evening, and it's pouring rain. I mean, like monsooning, dumping rain. And this darn little vehicle, this Prius, is not, she's hydroplaning all over the road, okay? So, but you can understand, this Prius has lawnmower tires, okay? So what are they, 12-inch tires? Other than a little bit of drizzle, this thing's so light, there's just not much weight over these wheels. So I'm going 50-55, like hydroplaning. And I call Rebecca, and I'm like, babes, what do you think? And so I said, it's the time to get the pilot's license. And she said, look, if you want to get it done, I support it and we'll get it done. And I said, look, we're just going to be able to get in between the offices way more efficiently because we've got a few accounting offices, an office in Texas, one in Oklahoma, and then one in Missouri. And especially getting the one in Missouri, driving to that office, it's 3 hours flying or 12 hours driving just because of where it's located. And just she signed off on it. And so last November, I started my private pilot process, this process to get my license last November. And what I did is the very first thing that I did, which I highly recommend to anyone, and this actually came from my buddy that had the plane that I was able to ride in. His brother had his pilot's license for 20 years, and he taught me how to get it done for as cheap as possible because, again, frugality is my love language. And he tells me, my buddy Nick tells me, look, you got to do your ground school in a classroom setting. It's going to save you a pile of money, and you'll get it done in 30 days. And he said it's going to be you'll enjoy it because it's in a classroom setting with other students. That's what I did. Last November, I signed up for the 30-day ground school, and I recommend that. If you're looking at getting your private pilot's license, it's one of the hacks or the cheat codes to getting your ground school done for very cheap, very quick, and you will retain a lot more because you're in a classroom setting, and the students tend to you're like in a group meets, text chat, and you tend to learn more when you're in a group setting because you ask questions, you all talk. So, last November, so we are 14 months in, I started the process to get my private pilot's license. Okay. So, fast forward to last week, I was chatting with my instructor, and he told me that he was really proud of me because I was like, what do you mean? And he said, most individuals that start this don't finish. I was like, oh. Which, by the way, if you've ever started to get your pilot's license, you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? It is one of the most daunting things that you will ever do. When I say ever do, it's not like learning a new language. It's not like that. This is like learning 4 new languages at the exact same time. I remember the very first day of ground school, and it wasn't just the first day, because every day I would get home, Rebecca would ask me, this is your dream, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, are you feeling excited? And I was like, no. Every day I would come back from the 30 days of ground school feeling very defeated, overwhelmed, not having any idea what they're discussing, what they're talking about, all the way down to you start to second guess this quickly. And I've said that before. If you are working to get your pilot's license, or if you're working on getting a degree, or you're in a trade school and you're working on something that takes a couple years to get, mark my words, you will have probably more times of regret than more times of satisfaction of what you're doing. And by the way, I'm just talking about for me in particular. Typically, whenever you do something like this, or you're tackling something that seems very daunting, overwhelming, the natural tendency is to want to basically leave. Yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm getting out of this. I'm not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? It tends to be the driving motivational factor for most people. Here we are toward the end of a year, beginning of a new year, and this is where everybody gets remotivated to do those difficult things. But the dopamine release, which is the excitement, tends to wear off pretty quick. Like after a few weeks, that excitement to get up to do something diminishes every day, which means drive and reason must be equal and opposite to the lack of dopamine, the excitement. So you start here. You've got to have a strong reason to do this, okay? Because this is going to wear down. This is the dopamine. This is the excitement piece. This is the newness, the relationships, whatever. This wears off for everything. Anything you can look at, you start something, you're excited, that wears off. It always does. Your drive and your reason must be so strong that it carries you through those times and periods where you want to run the other way. You want to turn cheek. But when you're starting something new, your mindset, and again, I'm only coaching from the stuff that works for me, so I'm not saying this is going to work for you, but you've got to have the mindset when you start something new, in a sense like the explorer Cortez. If you ever remember famous stories about Cortez, whenever he would land on a new land to conquer, he would order his men to burn the ships. That's right. Burn the ships. He told his men, we are either going to conquer or be conquered, but there is no retreat. You have to have the mindset of, this is going to happen unless I'm dead or in a coma. My ship is burned. This is going to happen. You have to have the mindset of, you've decided you're going to do this. If you just want to do it, trust me, especially when it comes to difficult things like getting a POTS license, there's so much of that experience where I honestly wanted to give up. I wanted to stop. I wanted to turn and go the other direction. But I kept the why in front of me at all times. This is a much more efficient way for you to commute to your offices in the Midwest. It's going to allow you to get there much more efficiently, quickly, to free up more time to do everything else that you do. So this is my why, and it's been sitting on that shelf the whole time. But I've got to tell you the secret how I was able to do it, right? I've been now working on 14 months. I got my solo license last April, just a few days before tax deadline. Around then, I did a 2-month charity bike ride where I rode my bicycle from Dallas to Washington, D.C. And that, by the way, is another perfect example of what I'm talking about, starting something, because to do that, and I'm going to be doing it this year and every year as a big fundraiser for individuals and family members that have been affected by Ponzi schemes. To me, it's one of the most horrific crimes I've ever seen. Last year was my very first annual charity bike ride. Same thing. I have to start training for that about 5 months early. You've got to have the why you're doing it always there, because trust me, most days you don't want to exercise. Most days you don't want a lot of work, but you've got to understand, right? The key to doing anything difficult, to doing anything worth achieving, you have to understand that for the lion's share of the time that you're working toward the goal, you're not having fun. Are you hearing me? It's not fun. You typically are not encouraged. But this is about you showing up, right? Pushing through building something one small step at a time. Going into the beginning of the year, again, the reality is most people start strong, but then after the excitement wears off, we have less motivation to continue moving forward. And here's the kicker. What's been my little secret sauce through all these years of being able to tackle what seems to be like impossible goals is this one phrase. Routine is the key. Consistency will set me free. Routine is the key. Consistency will set me free. Routine is the key. Consistency will set me free. Your success lies in your tiny little daily habits. Ooh-hoo! Boy, did you feel that? I got little goosebumps right there, man. Hopefully you're going to see by the end of here the secret and the power in these small next steps and those little habits. But we got to really define what the problem is, okay? The problem for most small business owners is not in the competition, right? It's not really even in the economy. It's not in hiring, right? It's the consistency. With big goals, right? When that excitement wears off, we tend to find big excuses, right? It's too hard. I don't have the time. You have to take the FAA's written exam. And it was the week that I was supposed to take it. I took 3 weeks off of my flying lessons to study for this thing. It was one of the most nerve-wracking tests because you basically have to memorize a bank of over 700 questions because on the test you don't know which. I think it's 50 questions, 75 questions, 100 questions. I don't know what it is. But they just pull a random set of questions. So you have to have all of them memorized. The day before I took the test, I was doing my practice test. So this is on a Sunday. I was due to take the test on a Monday morning. And I took one of the practice exams and made it 55. I went into a full-on panic attack, man. And from there, I basically had decided, okay. And because I was like, I'm not ready. All the self-doubt and self-talk and all that, it literally went from none of it to it's all screaming at me, and I just felt overwhelmed, like I need to stop. And then literally everything. I tried to cancel the test. I was like, what are you doing? You're an idiot. You don't have time for this crap. This is the thing that I've realized about accomplishing goals. I've realized that I have two people on my shoulder at all times. And what I've realized is that most people have a variation of this too. For me, what I've realized is that I have two individuals, two 2-inch people on my shoulder. And the best example that I can give, if you go find this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. One of my wife's favorite movies is Olive the Other Reindeer. It's like a cartoon, and it's about a dog and a little flea named Fido that is always on the dog's shoulder. This dog, the voice is played by Drew Barrymore, so if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But basically, the dog's name is Olive, and when she heard that Olive the Other Reindeer, she thought that they were calling her. And so I bring this up because it's a fantastic Christmas cartoon, but Fido the flea is always whispering the wrong thing to the dog. It's one of the most comical scenes of the entire movie where Tim, the owner, and Olive, the dog, get into a fight. And so Olive runs back out to her doghouse. Fido the flea is on her shoulder, and Tim comes out and he apologizes to Olive, the dog. And Olive can't hear, so Fido the flea is translating, and quite literally translates everything Tim says to the opposite of what Tim was saying. That same Fido is something we all have. It's that voice that we have, okay? And so all of us have this 2-inch version, the Fido, who's always saying the wrong thing in our ear, and then we have this 2-inch version of ourselves. So just what I always say is this one is like the 20-year-old version of me, the fraternity boy who's always like screaming, whatever, you can do that later, who cares, shut up, do it, you're okay, what are you worrying about? And it's like always yelling at me, telling me, you don't need to work out, you don't need to do this, are you kidding, you can do it tomorrow. And then whenever I listen to it, it says, gotcha again. And I'm like, but You told me that I wouldn't have to worry about it. Every time you listen to that voice, you're not listening to this voice. That's the 80-year-old version of you that's all wisdom and all wise, who's whispering in your ear what you should be doing, what you know you need to be doing. Most of us listen to the fraternity version of ourselves and at the age-old wisdom of this one. Okay, we listen to this one. But here's the problem. Every time you listen to that one, you're feeding it, and it gets fatter and fatter. And it turns into an Oompa Loompa on Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, okay? This is the problem that we have to understand here, okay? Yes, I'm talking about working out and things like that, which we all know that as a business owner, if we are not healthy personally, our business can't be healthy as well. Our business is just a reflection of us personally, right? I think we understand that. But let's say we've committed that we need to make 20 sales calls a day. But why is it after 2 weeks, all of a sudden now we're making 5 sales calls a day? And why after a month we stop making sales calls? Why is it for business owners we decide that every month we're going to go visit 5 of our customers to see how they're doing, but somehow by the 3rd month we've now excused away why we no longer visit our customers? Or we talked about redoing our website, right? And we know that it's just going to take a few minutes for us to go find somebody online, maybe at Fiverr or something like that can help us do it. We've committed that we're going to spend 30 minutes a day working on that. Let me give you some real world examples for me that I've committed to, that I've fallen short on. Creating content. I know that for our Venti business owners, and you guys know Venti business does not mean large from S-Bucks, it means 20, right? So 1 to 20 employees, the mom and pop really is our sweet spot. And that's really where I try to spend as much of my consulting just helping our mom and pop business owners succeed in life, in business, and in retirement. And that's really it. Our goal on this channel is to help you succeed in life, in business, and in your retirement. Because I just don't feel that enough people really help us. I feel we're like in a sense, the Venti business owners are like Gen X. We're like the latchkey kids. Nobody helps us, right? Gen X is the mom and pop. We're on an island by ourselves and nobody's helping us. And so that's the purpose of this channel, is to really help you guys with that. And I want you guys to really understand that the secret to you accomplishing big things, the pyramids were built by one Latin phrase: ventilabis lapidem. Ventilabis lapidem. It means push the stones. And in my phone, I've got like this screensaver of this guy pushing this stone up a hill, like, Arr! Push it 2 inches a day, man. Just push it 2 inches a day and you're going to be fine, okay? But the secret is in these tiny little daily habits, okay? And they have to be small because the key is doing them consistently over time. Warren Buffett, first of all, he's got brilliant, easy sayings. He said, you can become whoever you want to become, right? That's completely up to you. He said, but think of life change in the form of little habits. And he said this one phrase, this one little saying, that of habit are too light to be felt in the beginning until they're too heavy to be broken. The chains of habit are too light to be felt in the beginning until they're too heavy to be broken. I've got a habit where I'm in bed 8:30 to 9:30 every day because I'm up between 3 and 5 every morning with no alarm, ready to work. By 6 a.m., I'm working. I've got these habits and routines that I've had for so many years that it's just too heavy to be broken. I couldn't even imagine doing it. But this is the encouragement for you today, right? So if we go back to the overall theme about today, which is what? Routine is the key. Consistency will set you free. What are the tiny little habits that you're putting in your daily routine? Okay, whether it's, I've decided that I'm going to basically carry water with me. I'm going to drink 32 ounces of water every day. Okay? Remember, start these small. If you try to do too much too fast and you try to start like, oh, I'm going to start the Hard 75 or P90X or whatever the heck you're going to do, or Whole 30, these things are like great, but in the end, these are also just as easy to stop doing. I really want you guys to understand that this kind of boils down to understanding that the success that you've been praying for, the breakthrough that you've been praying for is there. But you have to understand, before God can unlock the blessings for you, you've got to be taking the first steps of action. I always just think of that. You remember, there's an Indiana Jones movie. I have no idea which one it is, but it was specifically in where you take the step. It's that first step off the cliff, and it's the step of faith. And if you remember in Indiana Jones, you take the step of faith and you step off the cliff, and then the step appears. But you have to take the step first, and then God will show you the step, the support. You take the step, the faith walk, and then the support is there that you need. And that's a whole different micro lesson. But I really want you to have the vision that you're looking for. What is it? What are you trying to accomplish? You've got to keep it there at the forefront of your mind at all times, right? Is it that you're going to have your first employee? Is it that you're going to create your SEO system? That you're going to create your very HR manual? Are you going to hire your first accountant? Whatever it is, trust me, if this is a big project for you, you're going to come up with unbelievable resistance to get it done. You have to understand, if you guys remember reading in the New Testament, Jesus gave this parable about once you get rid of a bad habit. He talked about it's like getting rid of a bad house guest, and you sweep it out, but then it comes back with 7 of its friends. This is resistance. Resistance will be the most difficult thing that you will have to overcome, and I'm telling you right now, the size of your vision, you're going to have the same equal and opposite pendulum swing of resistance. Did you hear what I said? If what you're supposed to do is huge and you're supposed to help a lot of people, the size of your resistance is going to be equal to the size of your vision. Understand what I'm telling you? This will not be easy, but I promise you, it will be the most rewarding thing you've ever done. I just want to close this micro lesson out with just a quick little recap. Know what you want, have that vision, okay? Create the series of next steps that you need to do to accomplish that vision, and just start building those little tiny habits into your daily routine, right? Because remember, guys, routine is the key. Consistency will set you free. I hope that this micro lesson gives you some encouragement today. I really hope that you take some of this and you're able to apply it, because honestly, I've spent so many years trying to figure out how to do this, and I've done it wrong so many times. I figured out a couple things to help me do it right, and I just want to share that with you. So hopefully that's another encouraging micro lesson on the power of the tiny habits. With that, I'm going to jump off here and get back to work. All right. Share down in the comments little tips and tricks that have helped you guys, because I know for me, that's been a huge thing. And I want you guys to continue to work on yourself, continue to motivate yourself, continue to encourage yourself. And the purpose of this channel is really to be a channel of Venti, encouraging each other, building each other up, and giving tips and tricks that help us all succeed. Because in the end, to me, the 3 things we're dying for, in order: God, country, and small business. Have an awesome day, guys, because you're awesome. Talk to you soon.